climb, but you know, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step, and this is going to be a big step for N1HEX if they have the shoes to take it.
Yeah, I mean, a win is very heavy here for both of these teams. Yet again, almost every single match, pretty much the same. But a win for N1HEX over a team like AAAd would be a massive statement here to defeat one of the top 3 teams in the region. But of course, a win here for AAAd would tie their record with Zero Tenacity. So again, further cementing themselves as one of the top teams here in Asia. But we are ready. Bernard T'Challa up first here yet again. Draft phase already underway. AAAd take the one-sided Gambit. N1HEX take away the Mantis. I feel like that's a trade I'm willing to take.
I mean, if I'm AAAd, I think I'm willing to take that 10 days out of 10. I mean, we're going to see what the bans come out here for N1HEX, but they are very much so valuing the Mantis, and I'm sure that that's going to be their first protect. They are going to ban the Elsa, and I think, you know, the worst thing you could possibly do is give over the Gambit and the Elsa. Like, you might as well just throw in the towel, or like right away, if you end up doing that. But it's going to be that Mantis protect, so there is, you know, at least a strategy. And to N1HEX's credit, this does also show confidence. If you're willing to face the brute force of a Gambit composition, that is confidence in your Mantis pick here. So hopefully that confidence bears fruit.
Yeah, I mean, if they take this map, that is huge for them here up against, like you said, the Gambit. Definitely a big statement for them. They will get the one-sided Mantis for themselves here, so can't get Gambit, but they will go with the next best thing. They do not have access to Elsa. AAAd gonna ban her out. Both sides gonna ban Loki, so stuck hanging out with the TVA for this matchup here. But N1HEX will take the Vanpool away from this matchup. They're gonna save that for themselves here, so pretty good pickups here, I would say, for N1HEX on the saves. But again, you know, I gotta look at the Gambit. You don't see him make it through too many draft phases, so when he does show up, it is definitely a gigantic neon sign here. AAAd gonna ban out the Invis as well, and maybe save the Rogue here for some explosive entanglement.
I wouldn't hate it. I also wouldn't hate if N1HEX decided to go for a one-sided Vanpool with their final ban here. Oh, backing down off of the Rogue pick. AAAd. I mean, maybe they're not anticipating a Rogue ban coming out, so instead, ooh, they're actually going to protect the Vanpool. They read my mind as I was reading N1HEX's mind. There is some insane levels of telepathy happening right here, and it's going to be AAAd coming out ahead, but there is that Rogue ban that comes through.
Pick
so,
your hero.
All right, N1HEX, I guess they're all in on it. We're all just like, we're all reading from the same page right now.
Speaking the same language here for sure, and yeah, it's basically a coin flip here. Either you take the Rogue or you take the Vanpool. I don't think either option is particularly bad, but I do like the Vanpool. It gets to Tuba, and Tuba has done some insane stuff on the Vanguard variant of Deadpool, as we've seen in action plenty of times already here in the preseason. So definitely a big pickup. Of course, Winziger over onto the Gambit, definitely going to be big for sure here, but I would say AAAd walk away with a lot of their comfort picks too. N1HEX not too far behind in the draft here. I wouldn't say it's an out-and-out loss necessarily, but, you know, we're gonna have to see how this Gambit plays out for them.
It is scary because so like we talked a little bit about how, you know, a lot of teams will insta-ban the Gambit, and the reason why they do that is because if the Gambit gets through, there are so many other mandatory bans that you have to keep an eye on. The Star-Lord and the Rogue and the Loki, and you know, that's like that's 3 out of your 4 bans right there. And you know, luckily they're able to get the Rogue. They also end up They failed to get the ban onto the Vanpool. They could have got that one-sided, but AAAd were one step ahead. There's also the Daredevil, which we talked about, and Illicit, not to spoil the surprise, but surprise, it is the lawyer from Hell's Kitchen once again, and there is that aforementioned Star-Lord. There is a lot of hurting every time Windsor builds up that Raging Royal Flush, and if you're N1HEX, you are going to have to keep the tempo in your favor and make sure you put the kibosh on any attempt to pop that ultimate.
Yeah, pedal to the metal here is what N1HEX is going to have to bring to the table into the heart of the Intergalactic Empire of Wakanda. Map number 1 is Bernard T'Challa on deck here. The one point we didn't get to see from Bernard T'Challa last map to start things off here, and it is going to be quite a battle here between these two teams. A checkpoint not even unlocked yet, and they're going to take it to one another here, though N1HEX is going to try to position themselves for a first cap. DC Danny onto the Ultron. I said something about it beforehand, and already from the skies, an absolute terror here, finding 1 KO. Plenty of members of AAAd in the herd here as they are trying to maintain some kind of positioning on this first capture point just to stay in the fight. They will reverse some of the work that N1HEX has put in already. Tuba's already got a Deadpool ult, so they are on the move, but Doxlin will pick up yet another KO for the side of N1HEX, so not a bad start for them, but still looking for a first capture.
mean, there is still high ground control right now for N1HEX, and even though AAAd have the staying power, they're just delaying the inevitable. This should be N1HEX grinding this one out, but if they don't act fast, AAAd should be able to buy themselves back into this one. So despite 2 early elims coming out for N1HEX, it's not quite decided just yet. As Rocco comes in and takes down JT3, there goes N1HEX's ability to control the point and try and keep it in contention. They're gonna have to invest if they want to get this one. Rage of Ultron coming out from DC Danny. Oh, he is so rageful, so angry, and Tuba is feeling his wrath.
Yeah, we'll find at least one off of that, but Illicit gonna even it right up there. Jeff Alt coming in from Quasit there does find, it looks like a couple of members of N1HEX potentially there on that Jeff Alt, but plenty for AAAd to open the path. They will take the first capture here, finally, after a long opening salvo here for both sides, but they walk away not only with the capture point, but with some ultimates to boot, so a solid start here, but N1HEX not too far behind.
And it's a very game N1HEX right now. Like, they're still finding the elims and making AAAd have to work for it. In fact, made them invest the Rage and Royal Flush, so now it's going to be disjointed, desynced from that Galactic Legend. And I think without that Royal Flush, the Galactic Legend from Rocco, while still scary, is significantly less so. I think there's a lot more options, especially holding on to D-Spooky's Meteor M to be able to parry that one, or, you know, if you have to just go full-on emergency mode, you also have Fateable Worlds on deck soon, but an aggressive Meteor M and No Smite is now just a splatter on the pavement.
Yeah, on the track, but on the track as well. Rocco overhead with a Galactic Legend. Jamon throws down the Fate of both worlds here to keep the team alive through all that. Galactic Legend does go down, but AAAd still holding the point here. I think Freeze as well coming in from Jamon. They can't quite convert, but Jamon will finish the job there as Illicit lets the devil out here somewhere in the background, but not enough to save AAAd in this fight. N1HEX taking 3 KOs now thanks to DC Danny. Another one for the Ultron here, making a double KO for the Ultron, as N1HEX will finally make the flip here. A solid comeback for them.
Disgusting tracking, by the way. Just tracking No Smite as he is swinging out in just a perfect parabola. You love to see that from DC Danny. And he's coming up on another Rage of Ultron. And, you know, Ultron is only just now coming back into the meta. So let's talk about this ultimate, because it is a great tool to force resources. If you don't have the ultimate to be able to parry it, it's going to force you to peel back just to, you know, deal with the sheer damage.
Yeah, a space maker and a game changer for sure, all rolled into one here, but Winsger trying to turn the tide there. We'll find JT3, AAAd gonna look to get back in the fight here, while N1HEX still in control of the point, and the KO feed goes orange here. No Smite, Illicit, Tuba, all finding some KOs here, a couple of double KOs in the mix. They will wipe the floor with N1HEX here, and AAAd back in control before their lead can even be overtaken. They still hold a Jeff Alt as well, so a pretty decent position for them to retake it.
Yeah, a huge Feast of the Abyss from No Smite, and like you said, the Jeff Bolt online. Both Quasit and No Smite are going to be rubbing their big bellies right now. They are full, they are satiated, but maybe we can get a little bit more as the Joyful Splash from Quasit taking down Fish, and there's that Rage of Ultron, but now AAAd control the space. They don't care. They're forcing DC Dana to use this just to try and buy a little bit of space, but they are not selling.
No, they will dig their heels in and stand tall against that Rage of Ultron here. Gonna quiet down while AAAd does have N1HEX pushed out a little bit here, so they will have to kind of fight their way through a bit of a meat grinder here. Maybe not as bad as our last series here, but somebody from N1HEX has got to get on the point here. The Winsker will find one on the Gambit as overtime does go into effect. JT3 throwing down the Deadpool ult here, will manage to make some plays here. Finds Rocco taking one down from AAAd, but it's a body disadvantage here for N1HEX. Illicit gonna even things out for AAAd, and Winsker again on the move on that Gambit here. Tuba picks up one on the Deadpool, as well as AAAd find the body advantage. Overtime ticks away, and the portal is not in time. AAAd will have checkpoint number 1.
It looked pretty good for N1HEX initially, but AAAd, once they got control of that one, they only lost it for a brief moment, but they're able to clap right back off of big plays. They're really getting the most out of these ultimate fights, and sure, N1HEX are finding some picks there, but AAAd are doing such a good job of taking their time and forcing N1HEX to have to keep going for more and more elims, not giving away too much more, not overly brawling out, and giving N1HEX an opportunity to snowball that man advantage into a fight win. And the longer the fight takes, the more likely it's going to be that an ultimate comes online. And once those ults come online, just like I said, AAAd, they know exactly how to use them to their fullest of effects. And In doing so, they burn the Strange TP. I mean, we can see the timer at the top of your screen ticking down. That's going to be a few more seconds off of that, but it's still going to mean that there's not going to be a Strange TP coming online until it's midway through this this point here on Warrior Falls. And speaking of this map, I don't know that I love the Ultron pick on this map. I think of the 3 sub-maps in Burning T'Challa, this is probably the weakest for Ultron. You would like to see Stellar Spaceport instead, but luck of the draw not on N1HEX's side today.
Yeah, I mean, you know, they did make one retake there on the first capture point, but it felt like it was just enough time for AAAd to catch a breather there and regroup, and that's exactly what they did. They came right back out the gate swinging, but now N1HEX here on checkpoint number 2. Fish on the Mantis will find one onto Tuba, so one member of AAAd away here as N1HEX again gonna try to rotate here and make it to that capture point to open things up, but AAAd plenty of ults for both sides of the board really here as they are gonna let him fly here. JT3 Deadpool ult comes down here. Banhammer in effect for now to slow down AAAd. A DC Danny will pick off Rocco as well. The Ultron won by the side of N1HEX here. Jamon gets the fate of both worlds to let N1HEX invade here and try to take this capture point here. Double KO for the Ultron, and now Illicit letting that devil out once again. Doxson goes overhead for the Insong Inferno, gets some damage down, can't quite convert here, but D Spooky on the Magneto will find one, and Doxlin picks up one on the Phoenix after the ult here. Body advantage definitely favoring N1HEX here, and they will take capture number 1.
And body advantage on favor of N1HEX, and the bodies being stacked high, and AAAd fall one by one at the hands of DC Danny. And like, yeah, the Ultron pick is definitely paying off. I'll eat my words. It doesn't matter if it's Warrior Falls, it's Stellar Spaceport, Imperial Institute of Science. As long as you got the tracking to make it work, you're gonna make it hurt. And AAAd making a couple of swaps. Alyssa gonna ditch that Daredevil and swap over onto Psylocke. A little bit more hit scan pressure to try and put DC Danny down. Soul Surge is forced out from Fish early on. I don't love that from N1HEX. That does create a window for AAAd to strike.
Yeah, I definitely feel like they kind of opened the door wide up there with AAAd to try and get at their throat here. E-Spooky does have Meteor M online, but that's about all they've got. And now AAAd have nothing but KOs here. Illicit a double, no smite one on the Venom, and still holding that Feast of the Abyss. So AAAd trying to make this an all-you-can-eat buffet here. Quasit and Tuba will pick up a couple more as well. AAAd make the flip, and they make it left clicks only.
Now it's gonna be an uphill battle, trying to get Jamon up to that Fate of Both Worlds before Illicit builds up to that Dance of the Butterfly, but that's also the least of your worries. One issue that I'm seeing right now with N1HEX is that they don't really have the tools to dedicate to try and check Quasit on No Smite, who are on some of these off angles, and if they just walk into the meat grinder, Illicit's just gonna click heads.
We saw this play out with Rival last series. Now we're starting to see things come together here. Meat Grinder, yet again, Illicit chasing down D-Spooky, looking for the KO before the Meteor M goes off. AAAd just building more and more ult charge. You talked about looking for that race between Dance of Butterflies and Fate of Both Worlds, and Illicit certainly winning that race here. The rest of the team charged up and ready to go as well here. N1HEX backs against the wall as AAAd continue to tick up that capture progress. How do you break this if you're N1?
I mean, Rocco gonna open up with that Rage of Ultron. D-Spooky forced to use the bubble just to live. JT3 though with the Deagle shots gonna take down Winsker, and that is one good way to open it. Now JT3 gonna force a reaction from AAAd. Some more shots onto Rocco, a double, but JT3 has to join the fight, so can't commit to the full flip there, and now AAAd gonna take the remainder of this fight on the point.
Yeah, very solid stuff there. JT3 heads up gameplay for them. Couple ults coming online. Fate of Both Worlds comes out just in time as AAAd unleash the entire ult lineup here. Quasit still holds the It's Jeff, but a lot of commitment from AAAd, and I don't see those converting to KOs here. DC Danny low on the Ultron. Jamon goes down. The strategist for N1HEX offline, save for Fish, but Illicit, Quasit, and Tuba again in the KO feed, finding every pick they need to here. 85% at counting time, very quickly running out for N1HEX.
Doxlin already swapping over onto the Doctor Strange. The portal's going to be back online. We should get a portal play here from N1HEX, and DC Danny's Rage of Ultron is going to have the weight of the world on his shoulders right now. They have the opportunity to build up sufficient Soul Resurgence, but that's just going to stagger the fight out. You need to find an Elim. You got to find a pick with this Rage of Ultron, and DC Danny is going to be the one getting picked as Tuba just cuts him down to shreds.
Yeah, they needed the neutral to come in clutch here, and it's not coming through here. JT3 putting up a fight for the rest of the team here. D-Spooky on the Wolverine solo, and Illicit gonna chase down JT3. Almost all members of N1HEX online. No bodies left on the point. Overtime will tick down. No Strange Portal for N1HEX, and AAAd will close out Burning T'Challa. Both capture points belong to them.
Holy Psylocke, as soon as Illicit makes that swap, AAAd just shift into a higher gear, and N1HEX just never managed to caught up despite the heroics that come out from DC Danny. I really like what I saw from that Ultron pick, and I really liked what I saw from N1HEX on Imperial Institute of Science, but Warrior Falls was just night and day. As soon as we ditched the Daredevil and swapped over onto the Psy, Illicit, I don't even know if I saw him pop ults. I know he did at one point in time. He was building them up like candy, but in the neutral, able to build it to 11 final hits off of 14k damage, tying up with Tuba. That is, those numbers are disgusting. They're gross. Ew.
Yeah, I mean, insane stuff. And yeah, you're right. Not a ton of impact from Dance of the Butterflies, but Illicit did not need it here. Clearly exhibited by the scoreboard. Of course, like you said, DC Danny on the Ultron. Not necessarily the bot, but it's how you use it. And he definitely got a lot of value. One thing I gotta call out here, there's a giant glaring white spot on this leaderboard. Quasid on the Jeff, never KO'd throughout that entire map, and walks away with the most healing as well. So big stuff for the Jeff here in this matchup. But yeah, a very, very confident looking AAAd. Definitely pushed a couple times here. N1HEX find some ways to poke holes here and there, but just not enough for them to walk all the way through to convert that to checkpoints here. So AAAd already in that match point right away.
And I think the scary part is, you know, despite AAAd getting that Gambit Star-Lord combination through, yeah, sure, they do use it on Imperial Institute of Science, but then when we go over to Warrior Falls, they show they don't even need it. You know, they can match the Ultron. You want to go blow for blow, that's okay, all right? We got our own hit scan prodigy in Rocco who can man the Ultron with the best of them, take it to DC Danny, and then we got Illicit who, whether it's on the Psylocke or on the Daredevil, bro, is a threat, and you need to keep this guy on a leash.
It's like we talked about kind of at the beginning of this match, is really no matter what you ban, it feels like AAAd have a way to morph around the draft phase as it changes. And you see that in action here as they look so clean, so confident. Illicit over onto the Psylocke. I mean, absolutely insane stuff for them. A very solid performance there on Burnin' T'Challa. We're going to take a very short breather here before map number 2. AAAd, take it, and we will see you right after this.
Fury! 气贯长龙！ Thank goodness this book has pictures. Let's get go!
Well, a tough opener here in this matchup for N1HEX. AAAd take Burnin T'Challa very confidently, looking good in almost every situation there. A very versatile team that seems to morph itself around the draft phase. How do you stop AAAd?
That is the question. I wish I had an answer for it, but here's one thing that I can tell you for certain is that when you have a team as flexible as AAAd, you do not beat them in the draft phase. That's just not a thing that happens because they can, like you say, morph around the draft, you know? We talked about how that matchup shifted into entirely new gear once Illicit made the swap over onto the Psylocke, something that as we go to our next map, Museum of Contemplation, is going to need to be on N1HEX's radar, but here's the problem. No one is banning Psylocke right now. She's not really strong enough to be prioritized over, say, like the Gambit or the Elsa or even the Daredevil. So if you want to reach for that ban, you're just handing the Daredevil over to Illicit on a silver platter, and you know he's going to be more than happy to take that, and he'll take your lunch money while you're at it too.
Yeah, I mean, it truly feels like a game of whack-a-mole with this AAAd squad, trying to find the heart of the team in the draft phase, but it's like you say, CP, it's just not where this team's weakness lies. It is so difficult to really lock them down in picks and bans, so you have to look towards the battlefield, and on the battlefield, AAAd look as clean as ever. We saw a couple of looks from them kind of similar to what we saw from Rival Esports earlier in the night, trying to take advantage of some choke points on Burnin T'Challa, so it seems like teams are getting a little more comfortable playing the map, and yeah, that definitely becomes a kind of a meat grinder, like we've said a couple times now.
Yeah, and like, you know, the Ultron, I think, was their best tool, you know, to your point, especially when it came to trying to lock down some of those chokes, because if you give DC Danny that shooting gallery, he's got the tracking, he's got the mechanics to make that pick work, but the problem is, so does Rocco. So that's another one of those things where Ultron is starting to show his head in these picks and ban phases, and if AAAd want to be just really mean, they can just take that away from DC Danny and say, no, boots on the ground.
Yeah, maybe some Ultron motion in the draft phase might be something to at least help them throw a wrench in the works, but as we have seen, AAAd not wants to back down when they are getting banned out directly. So definitely some things gotta change here for N1HEX, but it is gonna be on their turf this time. They do have the map counter pick, so hopefully that will help steer some advantage in their direction. Of course, both of these teams coming off of wins in their previous matches, but it feels like for N1HEX, the momentum is being slowed down a little bit, not down and out for sure, cannot count them out just yet, but AAAd, you know, they're currently the third strongest team here in the Asia region, and it definitely showed there on map number 1.
And I'm starting to notice a pattern emerging when teams go to Museum of Contemplation. I think that might just be a comfort map for a lot of these teams because, like I said earlier, it's one of those maps where you can kind of just play anything. There's no real, like, dominant composition on that map. You want to play the dive? Sure. You want to play for the Adam Warlock res comp? Sure. It totally works. You want to play a front-to-back poke composition? Absolutely. More than happy to. There's also a ton of flank routes where you can get away with things like the Psylocke. You can get away with things like the Jeff, having some of these off angles. It's really hard to pick a dominant composition. I think a lot of teams are going to default to that, but if you try to take it on an even playing field, the better team is going to win 10 times out of 10.
Yeah, and I mean, you're 100% right. It does seem like a lot of teams very comfortable. It tends to be the first map that gets counterpicked as soon as a team has an opportunity. And it feels like over time we've seen teams kind of evolve and become more comfortable with it. We see a lot more play in the flank routes now as opposed to week 1 or even, you know, some preseason scrims.
Remember not too long ago when it was like Moon Knight was like everything,
yeah.
that was a flavor that we haven't even seen a Moon Knight in like weeks. It's been like, bro, he's on the moon right now, like just up there vibing, being haunted.
Yeah. Definitely kind of a missing in action, you know, look on the back of your milk carton, where is Mark Spector? We have not seen him in a long time, but yeah, a lot of things have changed very quickly here in just the preseason alone, and you know, if you're paying attention to some competitive events before this or watching any scrims, you know, you'll see things have changed even since then, so, you know, it has become a map that teams are more comfortable on, and a lot of play is evolving on it. I think at this point, if you're not comfortable with Museum of Contemplation, you need to be practicing it because you're almost guaranteed to run into someone that's going to want to counterpick it.
I feel a little bit smug because I remember back then predicting that once teams started to unlock, you know, playing Venom on this map, Venom would become a mainstay, and, you know, maybe all it took was a global ult charge nerf and a dive meta for Venom to come back into the fold, but hey, you know, it's a big, wide open space, but it's all walls and ceilings for Venom to crawl around and strike from literally 360 possible degrees. I mean, I guess he can't strike you from underground yet. Well, no, he can. Feast of the Abyss. So yeah, bro's got 360 degree coverage. You are in a world of hurt.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, it feels like Museum kind of opens up as it goes. You know, by the time you get to checkpoint 3, it's a little more wide open, but there's still pillars, there's still some shelves that Venom can kind of hide in and jump out and get those jump scare hits in. So, you know, definitely one to watch out for. It seems like teams have come to that realization as well as we see more Venom on Museum of Contemplation. But yeah, definitely opens the door for teams to play what they're most comfortable with. They don't have to work their comp around the map so much as they can just say, okay, this is what we're most comfortable on, or this is what we have the most success with, so we can usually get away with running that. And I have to imagine that is what N1HEX is banking on here to try and get this win and take us to a map 3.
I will say, you know, before we go into the picks and the bans for these teams, you know, I do want to see one shift, as a matter of fact, from N1HEX, and I think that if they want to try and differentiate themselves from the pack lest they fall behind it, I think they need to move on from what everyone else is doing, and instead of prioritizing the Mantis, they need to be willing to take a duel on whether it's the Elsa or, you know, try and prioritize getting the Gambit if they can. I can imagine AAAd are probably going to go for that snipe right out the gate onto the Gambit, because again, if the Gambit gets through, you have to ban so many other things. It becomes a checklist, right? Like, you gotta hit the Star-Lord, you gotta hit the Rogue, you gotta hit the Loki, then you only have one ban left, and it's probably going to Vanpool at that point in time, so, you know, it's probably gonna have to be Elsa. But if you're not confident in the Elsa and you crush the Mantis, and people have already figured out how to beat the Mantis, it's like, you have to be one of these flexible teams, right? You can't be that one-dimensional.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, the Gambit save is kind of a multi-pronged issue because you're right. You do end up having to ban out a lot more in the draft phase. You know, we even saw it on the previous map where there was a Rogue, you know, in the draft phase at the very end. Not only do you have to deal with him in the draft phase, but then even on the other side, if you ban away everything he makes good, it's still Gambit out there on the battlefield. He is still a threat, enables so many strategies, so, you know, you just don't want that to go through. It does feel like N1HEX gave up too much. You know, they gave up the Gambit. AAAd were able to walk away with the Deadpool. They got the Daredevil as well. So much value out of that draft phase. So I definitely want to see some changes there as we get ready to head on in to the second draft phase here. AAAd, map number 1 win for them, and they're looking to close this thing out in 2.
AAAd, I mean, they don't get paid by the hour, and realistically speaking, they're one of the few teams right now whose playoff spot is more or less secured. They're mostly just playing for seeding at this point in time, trying to get themselves a little bit higher up, maybe get themselves an easier first round. Not that any first round of the playoffs is going to be easy, but going through N1HEX, making a statement, getting another check in the dub column, I think is going to be paramount. N1HEX going straight for that Mantis ban again, and I think they're going to go for the Protect as well. And Jarvis, please don't clip that.
Yeah, definitely not what you want to see here. AAAd will get the ban and the save back-to-back here. Loki ban being hovered. You know, I think I know who we're going to be seeing show up in this blue box here next with the shield on it, the Protect onto Gambit. No questions asked. Snap decision. AAAd have the Gambit in their corner, but N1HEX can't give them any more. They can't give up the Daredevil. They can't give up the Deadpool. You got to deal with Elsa. Now there are so many problems here on the table, and this is just the draft phase.
Yeah, the Elsa ban is going to be coming through, so, you know, you've gotten through seemingly the worst of it, but again, yeah, the Gambit has already come through. Now you have to hit, like, the Loki. I think that's going to be the next highest priority for N1HEX, and then, again, Star-Lord and Rogue, and we did see both AAAd hovering over the Rogue. They do want to at least make an attempt to play it, and N1HEX going for the Scout ban onto that Rogue, so, you know, there's a lot of teams that just can't play the Rogue. You don't really have to worry about that as much in the ban phase, but if AAAd have in scrims or somewhere off screen showed a tendency to try and lean towards that at some point or another, then N1HEX have to be aware of it. We'll see the Protect coming through. It's going to be the Daredevil securing safe passage for Illicit, and again, like, this is scary because he doesn't even need the Daredevil, right? Like, even if you manage to brute force him off this hero, it's only going to get worse when he switches to the Psylocke.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of a disaster no matter which angle you approach it at. Illicit can play a ton of heroes. A deep pool for him for sure. Jeff taken off the table by N1HEX. They will save the invis for themselves here, so they're looking to confirm the backline here. And an Ultron ban coming through to close things out for AAAd. And again, I feel like AAAd walk away with the same tools. Tuba, Snap, lock in the Deadpool. Illicit taking the Daredevil once again. Winsker back on the Gambit. I really feel like we are doing the same song and dance here all over again.
But I do think that the Jeff ban is a huge coup for N1HEX, because a real pain point on that last map was that you had Quasid and No Smite on the Venom and the Jeff. this kind of two-man hit squad that was completely unchecked. And like I mentioned briefly, N1HEX didn't really have the resources to be able to clear their angles before pushing up, because as soon as they took one step forward, Illicit would just take their head off with a couple of psionic crossbow shots. And this means that they won't have to worry as much about that. But now we are going to be in uncharted territory. They're going to play against a composition that they have not played against before. Entirely new draw for N1HEX on their map pick, potentially their last map pick in this series, Museum of Contemplation, and they will be first up on the attack.
Yeah, and I feel like the Fog of War is kind of benefiting AAAd. You know, this map so popular, so many teams will counterpick it that I feel like it's not really a surprise. It doesn't come out of left field to play on this one. But like you said, N1HEX gonna have to do some quick studying here as these doors open. Museum of Contemplation, map number 2 with AAAd looking to advance to 4-1 overall on the preseason here. N1HEX on the attack here first, and I already see some action maybe in those flank routes as well. Rocco on the Phoenix this time, and Quasit, Jeff taken away, so Quasit over to the Invisible One.
AAAd potentially looking to set up a pinch, though. You got to keep an eye out for Illicit on that Daredevil. You can see Spooky turning around, trying to put a couple daggers down just to check and see if he gets a hit marker, but the ability absorption coming out from Nosebite. Now a bigger shield on the other side, and we didn't even need to bring a Doctor Strange in order to do it. AAAd is going to be able to stand their ground for the time being, as N1HEX, they can't clear Illicit off these angles, and if they can't do that, they can't walk forward.
Yeah, gonna be a bit of an uphill battle here, just about 60 seconds away for N1HEX on the attack here. You see Danny on the Wolverine this time, so a bit of a change up for N1HEX's lineup as well here. I do see Fish on the Cloak and Dagger. Haven't seen a lot of C&D so far this preseason. Every once in a while she makes her way around here. But Tuba gonna go ahead and throw the Banhammer down, as does JT3. So Banhammer's left and right here. No smite, so low. But Rocco goes overhead for the first KO here, taking down Doxlin in the Phoenix duel here. A minute and 15 away. N1HEX gonna take a couple of KOs here, but unfortunately it is just gonna be a bit of an even trade here. Rocco on the Phoenix does have Insong Inferno already ready to go here, but getting pressured out just a little bit as N1HEX gonna look to make some space here. Fish throwing down the Eternal Bond to give them that breathing room they need and try to get this card moving forward. They've made some progress here, and Jamma gonna follow that one right up. Invisible Boundary comes up as well for N1HEX, and there's the first Royal Flush for AAAd, buffing up the rest of the squad. Rocco still holding the Insong Inferno, does manage to escape a tricky situation here, and now the KO feed flips blue as AAAd lock in an ace here, wiping out everyone from N1HEX.
The plan from N1HEX was solid. As soon as they cleared Illicit, they were like, all right, we don't have to deal with this Daredevil breathing down our necks anymore. Let's go. This is our win condition right now. But they overplay their hand using both Strategist ultimates and then failing to get any more elims off the back of that. Means that once AAAd come back with that Rage and Royal Flush, N1HEX just can't compete anymore. They don't have an invisible boundary to say maybe catch it and nullify the speed boost with a little bit of slow. It just doesn't happen. They're going to have an Insong Inferno and a Agamotto, but they're going to have TC Danny as Illicit is letting the devil out all over your backline and taking down Fish. I think off the deflect on the Insong Inferno. Is that even possible?
I was not aware, but that is what I'm seeing too here, and Illicit gonna wrap it up with a triple KO there. D-Spooky does throw down the Eye of Agamotto to try and save the rest of the team, but it is not enough. AAAd grab another win for themselves here, and yeah, it's like you said, it feels like N1HEX kind of fallen out of lockstep here with those Strategist ultimate lineups here between them and AAAd, so it's gonna be tough to try and dig themselves out of this corner here. No Smite's got a Heartbreaker ready to go. Tuba's got the Banhammer and gonna let it go here. Quasit finds one on the Invis as well, taking out the Mantis. A couple of KOs for N1HEX, a 1 for 4, favoring AAAd, making a 5 as Rocco picking up a double KO on the Phoenix here. N1HEX sent back to spawn, and it's just 45 seconds left to go.
And they're going to have to use a not insignificant portion of those 45 seconds once again to clear Illicit. Where is he lurking? Who knows? He's got wall hacks, so he knows where you're going to be approaching from. You got to deal with him before you're comfortable walking around this first corner here. And if you're walking around this first corner, you're going right into Rocco, who is clicking heads, stacking up the sparks. Oh no, your backline. You see Danny left all alone, and there's a 1-2 hit.
Illicit moving again on this Daredevil right into the backline. Backs turned towards him from N1HEX. AAAd taking control yet again here. Illicit a double KO with the Lawyer from Hell's Kitchen. One more time here as AAAd are looking to close this thing out. Just 10 seconds left to go, and they are not sure how to broach this. I do see a portal being charged up from Doxlin, but are they going to be able to make it? The portal does go through. It is good Overtime goes into effect here, but they're not even halfway to checkpoint number 1, so they've got to win this fight here, and maybe even one more after this if they want to get this time refresh. But AAAd, Raging Royal Flush comes out. Rocco goes overhead for the Insong Inferno yet again. No, Jambon's got the team on oversight here. Does throw down that invisible boundary, so they will survive this onslaught here. Tuba does have that Banhammer one more time from the Deadpool here, just trying to make a dent in this N1HEX offense, trying to seal the deal about halfway to checkpoint number 1. But AAAd not able to hold it as strong this time here. D-Spooky got that the Venom up and running here, does have the ult ready to go, but N1HEX are just trying to find a way to stay in this fight, and for now it seems like they got control.
No Smite is caught behind enemy lines. Doxlin tried to scout that one out, but I don't think they can confirm the Elim there. JT3 taking down Rocco, though. This is a good stagger. If they keep this going, they should be able to confirm that cap there. JT3 now taking the duel with No Smite all alone with no one to help him, but Illicit is the cavalry, and the cavalry has arrived, and with letting the devil out is able to take down Jambon, and suddenly the lifeline for N1HEX has been cut short as Tuba going to take down Fish as well, and Illicit just continuing to batter N1HEX with the Billy clubs. He's the Billy Goat in this house right now, and the Batmobile will not be making it to point B as AAAd lay the hammer down and stop the cap from coming through and set themselves up for a breeze on the attacking side here. And it looked good for a split second there, but it was also kind of rough. You know, a little touch and go at certain points there. We saw potentially the strangest shortest Doctor Strange portal of all time. I mean, having to take that about the length of a Taco Bell drive-thru just to get back onto the cart is definitely a sign of disaster.
Yeah, I mean, Doxlin fighting for his and the rest of the team's life, throws down that Aya Agamotto at the last second, but just doesn't make its mark, can't buy any time off of it, and N1HEX now staring down the barrel of AAAd here. 95 meters of checkpoint number 1 is all AAAd is gonna have to clear in order to bring this one home. So, you know, right out of the gate, look for them to get aggressive with it here, as there's some changes coming through on both sides of the board here. D-Spooky over onto the Hulk. I see Rocco on the Black Panther, but you know, door's not open yet, so we'll see. It remains to be seen if he's gonna actually walk out on it, but yeah, it's just a couple of fights here that AAAd need to string together to take this one home.
Like you said, the door's not open yet, and as long as that door stays closed, you know where Illicit is going to be, so you don't have to click your angles anymore, so that's a plus, I think. But you know, in about 5 seconds, that advantage is going to be nullified. You're going to see him coming out the spawn door, and you got to keep track of where he goes from there, because if he ends up deep into your backline, that's going to be a problem. You have a good survivable backline with the Mantis and the Jeff, so, you know, not going to be giving up any Elims early on to Illicit, but that doesn't mean he ain't going to try.
Yeah, definitely going deep into enemy territory.
They've already
that
lost
Daredevil. Yeah, I lost track of him here, to be completely honest. Trying to get the early drop on N1HEX to make this a quick open and shut offense for AAAd. Cart already out and on the move here. AAAd wrestling for some control of it, and Illicit on the move. They do spot him, though. They are aware he's there, but what can they do about it? He goes in on Fish, chasing down the Jeff. He will make the escape here, but now Illicit full frontal here into N1HEX, trying to push them away, give AAAd some space to breathe and get that cart moving. Tuba already got the Deadpool ult moving and ready to go here. They are just looking for a big confirm here, trying to find some kind of breakthrough, and that might be it here. No Smite finds Gem on one strategist, down on the side of N1HEX. Make that 2 and 3. All of the strategists offline here. No healing coming through for N1HEX, and it is a matter of time here as AAAd flip the cart back their way.
And the target prioritization for AAAd is stellar. They make sure that the Doctor Strange JT3 is the last one to fall, meaning that this Strange TP play that's going to come out is going to be extra late. It's going to be do or die now for N1HEX. They're going to be coming in here with a couple of big ultimates, but have a look over the other side of your screen. So AAAd, Raging Royal Flush about to come online from Windsor, and that might just be the final blow.
Yeah, tough shots here. N1HEX dive through the portal. Aya Agamotto is no good. Can't get it off here. Doxlin does go overhead for that Insong Inferno. Quasid's got invisible boundary up, and now Illicit letting the Devil out one last time here. Quasid will find one on the Invis here just to keep the KO train moving against N1HEX. There's the Eternal Bond from Jam on there, trying to buy this team some kind of miracle to stop the last 2 minutes of this, but AAAd still on the move. Illicit, an absolute menace on the Daredevil. They gave it to him again now, and Illicit is taking it to N1HEX one last time as they will wipe the floor with him, and with 2 minutes left on the clock, AAAd close it out 2 maps to 0.
Unfortunately, N1HEX are still going to be searching for that second win. They are not safe. They are not out of the woods, and they are still on the chopping block for elimination. Not yet securing safe passage to playoffs, but AAAd are about as safe as it gets. They were in full control, especially on Museum of Contemplation. Tuba going to be coming away with a much-deserved MVP. You know, No Smite has told us a couple of times that Tuba and Illicit are the carries of this team, and I struggle to say carry because it feels like a team effort. It feels like top to bottom, this team just knows their win conditions. They just know how to win these fights in just the perfect way. You know, that stagger onto JT3, making sure that Doctor Strange is the last one to fall is just the cherry on top, meaning there's going to be no daylight between the cart and the checkpoint when that portal play finally comes through, and they've got the ults to carry on over to it. They've got Illicit with 28-3, 11 final hits. I mean, if it weren't for Tuba going completely with that goose egg there in the casualty department right there, like that would be, I think, a different MVP, but they can share the glory. I'm sure No Smite will agree. No Smite also went 25-0. Like, top to bottom, this team's stacked. I don't know what to say.
That was what I was going to say. You know, before this match, I said this is a team with a deadly Vanguard line. No Smite and Tuba, absolute menaces in every sense of the word, and they show that off here. Tuba, a well-earned MVP on map number 2 here, and yeah, solid performance. This is a team that is very good at making it look like none of their members are the weak link in the chain, right? There is no one member on this squad that I would point out and say, yeah, if you can find a way to take them out, that's a good way to start kind of a snowball. No, they all look incredibly strong. They all find their way into the KO feud, and they are all very good at doing their jobs.
And, you know, we did talk a lot about, you know, trying to shut down Illicit, whether it was on the Psylocke or on the Daredevil, but it's so hard to do. Like, you can't do that in the ban phase because you got to deal with one or the other, and there's still so many other things that you need to ban. It's a pick your poison or a whack-a-mole or whatever kind of situation you want to call it. It is a problem, and you know, if you can't shut that down, then you're not going to like what comes after, because it's going to be, like you said, Tuba or No Smite. We didn't even get to talk a whole lot about Rocco this series. It wasn't, you know, the flashiest one from Rocco, because it didn't need to be. We've seen him be the hero for this team in the past. Didn't even need to. He could kick his feet up and just let the rest of the team do their work, and they clocked in, they clocked out, made it look easy.
Right, I was going to say, if that's Rocco, kind of lower tempo Rocco, I mean, imagine what he's like at full power, you know, a very deadly team in their own right, and, you know, still standing tall at the 3rd strongest in Asia, now record tied with Zero Tenacity, but they are not one to be overlooked here. They are definitely in the conversation, and if this team can find a way to work in some wins against Zero Tenacity, some wins against Pirates, they are looking at shooting for the stars for sure. But, of course, those two teams definitely big challenges, but AAAd are the ones that seem poised to be able to beat them, if anybody in the Asia region.
You think AAAd got what it takes to beat Pirates? Because I've talked about it a couple times, and they are the last team to successfully take a map off of them in MRC Season 6 Finals in a best-of-7 series. AAAd, they did do it. They did get wiped for the rest of the series, and it was not close, and Pirates have been riding that high all the way to the top of Marvel Rivals Ignite Asia Pacific, and look to continue that trajectory. But if AAAd managed to get a turnaround, because I'll say, you know, of the top 3 teams, they have at times been the shakiest. Their contest against Reject was the closest out of those top 3 teams. But if they've managed to clean up whatever was going wrong there, even in success, find room for improvement, I think they can take it to Pirates, maybe take a couple maps off. I mean, it's going to be a best of 3, so if they can take even a single map off, they can do what nobody else thus far has managed to do.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely a strong team, but you're right. There are some things they need to smooth over in order to take a full series away from Pirates, or take some maps or a series from Zero Tenacity. There's still some questions they have to answer, some things they need to show us, but, you know, in their matchups against almost every other team we've seen in the Asia region, it's been a very, very strong showing for them. So, again, I think if anyone's going to compete with this kind of 2-pillar that we have of Pirates and Zero Tenacity, I think AAAd, you know, the AAA stands for the 3rd pillar in the Asia region, because that's where they are really positioning themselves. So it feels like that top 3 group kind of, you know, peeling away from the rest here, but yeah, definitely challengers to be feared for sure.
So if you're N1HEX, though, you know, let's talk a little bit about their trajectory. Like, where do you go from here? Because you still need to get that second win in order to, you know, match rival esports after that previous series. It'd be a different story if Loyalty had managed to best them, because then we would have all 3 teams sitting at 1 win apiece. But now for N1HEX, I feel like, and this is going to feel like hearsay, or heresy, whichever one. I don't know what the correct term is. I'm not the best wordsmith, despite it being my job. But like, of the teams that I think N1HEX still have to face, AAAd might have been the most beatable, and they have now fallen 2-0. So where do you go? What do you do? What do you clean up? And where do you kind of butter your bread trying to go forward if you want to try and make the cut here? Because there is still a chance. It's a slim one, but it's a chance.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really tough question to try and answer. You know, this week for N1HEX, their week 2 schedule is insanely difficult. They take on AAAd tonight. They lose that one 0-2, unfortunately. They will be taking on Zero Tenacity and Pirates for the rest of this second week of preseason. So it is definitely a difficult position to find themselves in where, you know, I agree with you. I think of those 3 matchups, AAAd, definitely the best look on paper for them. Those other 2 gonna be very, very tough matchups for them as well. So, you know, I think it is a little bit about trying to scout, a little bit of information, and a little bit of future planning for them. Not to say that they're not going to be able to perform a stunner, because we've seen crazier things in Ignite before, even just in this preseason.
I was gonna say,
it's a tough look.
We've definitely seen crazier things coming out. We could see a Cafe Rose situation. We could see a FlyQuest situation with like a total 180 here. You know, it's possible. It's happened. We've seen it happen. You know, and even some of these teams like Loyalty and N1HEX, you can tell they're both very hungry. And if you get caught sleeping, they will make you hurt. You know, N1HEX have taken a few maps off of other teams above them, took a map off of Rivals and nearly bested them. And I think are going to be, you know, looking back at that series and thinking about how winnable that one might have been, and how that one might have been the one that could have been safe for them. But I don't know. It's looking a little bit rough here, but we are not looking rough at all. We have got an interview ready to go. I don't know if it's ready to go, but we got it on deck soon, and we get to actually change things up. We get to talk to Tuba here pretty shortly from AAAd. We'll see if we can get that one on deck, but I'm excited to hear what Tuba has to say as one of the carries that No Smite has pointed out a couple of times.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a solid player, you know, put up the 0 times KO'd on that second match, showed why this team's Vanguard line is so deadly, and just to be as feared as the Duelist lineup, as the Strategist lineup, you know, absolutely hard workers there on the front lines of battle for AAAd. So definitely interested to hear some feedback. You know, how does Tuba interpret himself in the bigger picture of Asia and the team really as a whole? But definitely a lot to be excited for if you're AAAd. You know, a very, very solid group stage for them. I don't know the math. I'm not that good at math, so I don't know if it's worked out to where they are in playoffs, but they are definitely on a very solid trajectory here early on in the preseason. I mean, absolutely, definitely put themselves on the map. Definitely, you know, outplayed my predictions, as most teams in Ignite have so far. So,
do you think? Do you think in the interview that Tuba is going to toot his own horn?
Could be doing a little bit of that. Could be hearing a little bit of the tuba sounds here. You know, comes in valiantly with the tuba, you know, war horn as he rides in to the interview. You know, as I've been told, you know, maybe don't ask him about spelling his name backwards, but you know, that's beyond me.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's so it's just a little bit of dark humor for you. You know, a little bit of edgy humor. You know, we don't want to talk too much about that, but we've got some questions for him once we get him in here. We continue to look to the future for both of these teams, like we were talking about. N1HEX, they are going to have a very scary road ahead of them. Crazier things have happened. There's still a chance they can get a couple of map wins, potentially even a series win under their belt. But against a Pirates that is looking dominant, and a Zero Tenacity that is going to be looking to get their lick back after falling to Pirates today, it's going to be a tall order going from here on out. Meanwhile, AAAd, I do think that their playoff spot is mostly secure. I think, you know, you're looking right now as the, you know, N1HEX and Loyalty being the two on the outside looking in of that top 6.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it is going to be a long road ahead. I think AAAd are also playing Pirates and Z10 this week, so they both have pretty tough schedules here. But for tonight, AAAd, the big winners here, and we do have Tuba on the line to talk a little bit about this matchup. So let's get into the interview. Oh, on the horn. Hi, Tuba. Can you hear me?
Yo, hello.
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 Hey, hi. Hey, nice job. You guys played really well. Really big win for you. How would you evaluate your individual performance in this match?
I think it went fine.
a bit of an understatement. Yeah, it definitely went fine. Who do you think was your standout teammate in securing this victory?
Illicit.
I would agree. I would agree.
Yeah.
Illicit looks pretty strong.
Yeah, he's so good. You and No Smite, you're very good Vanguard players. How did you communicate at the end of map 2?
We just communicate on instinct, so there's no need to say things upload.
Yeah.
And I mean, on instinct alone, that's crazy. You guys are so good. Congratulations on the win, and we look forward to seeing more of you. Thank you so much, Tuba.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye. See ya.
Bye.
Instinct.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like it, right? They react so quickly to almost every situation they find themselves in that, yeah, I would almost say, has to be instinct between those two. But man, yeah, solid performance from that Vanguard line. I'm glad I said something about it beforehand because I'm like, okay, I want them to show it, and they definitely got to show a lot. So yeah, props to AAAd, huge win for them.
I like the mental image in my head where they're like, yeah, they're on instinct. They're all just like locked in. Nobody's even calming everything. They're just like all playing the game, and it's just like perfect symphony. Like they're just hitting all the notes. And hey, they definitely hit a high note today, and there's definitely gonna be more to play. We talked about how it's going to be from here on out, but we still have one more game before we even get that far. One more on deck. Don't go anywhere. We have got game number 4 on the other side of this break. Chat. We'll see you in just a bit.